we are here to discuss Chopping Mall.
Not
Shopping Mall,
nope.
Chopping Mall. And I have the most ridiculously tiny little beer here ever.
So cute.
I was like, I don't really want a majorly large beer, so I'll take the 5 ounce, but I didn't realize it was basically a shot glass of beer. Whereas you have like a normal human beer here.
Yes.
So we may have gotten the same. What did you get?
I got this number 7.
I got the Robotico.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so we got the same one. Nice.
We did.
All right, cool.
We did. I just have much more of it.
You do.
Than you.
You do. We're tired. We're teachers. We're at the end of the semester.
I entered final grades today.
Oh, nice. That's
so,
good.
celebration.
Yeah. I did 2 of mine. Yeah, I thought you were doing yours tomorrow. Or no?
No, tomorrow's graduation.
Oh, tomorrow's graduation. Okay. We're at different colleges.
Yes.
So, anyway.
Yes.
All that aside, Chopping Mall was released in 1986. I've got the information in front of me here. Directed by Jim Wynorski, I guess, who also wrote the movie.
Of course he did.
This is only an hour and 17 minutes long, which,
really?
Seeing that now, I'm like, that's really super short. Which
it is.
It didn't feel that short.
No,
when I was watching
it didn't feel short, but I was like, I was never like, man, this is dragging. Like, I don't know. I thought the length was fine. I just never thought about it. So even better to sell. Only an hour and 17 minutes. You can commit that.
Yes, and I, typically when I go back and see these like mid to early 80s kind of cult horror things, they don't always land well with me. Like sometimes there are like good moments, but overall I'm like, I'm never going to watch that again.
Yeah.
I would actually probably watch this again.
I would watch this again. I absolutely would watch this. And actually now that you mention it, I kind of want to see if my sister wants to watch it this weekend because it's entertaining.
Does she also like horror movies?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I assume you wouldn't show it otherwise.
I mean, that would be funny, but yeah, no.
I did ask our friend Virginia if she wanted to watch Chopping Mall and join us, and she said, I would join you guys for a movie review as long as the word chopping was not in the title of the film.
That's boring. But my thought was, on the way here, I was thinking, was anybody chopped?
That's a good question.
There was a lot of lasering.
There was a lot of lasering.
And explosions.
Yeah.
And bullets.
Yeah.
But was anybody actually like, when I think chopping, I think like, chopping.
Right. like cleaving.
Yes, like I have an axe,
yeah, right.
and I don't know that these mall security robots ever like chopped.
I don't think they did. And I mean, there was some gore, but it was actually pretty tame generally. I mean, there was some of it. I mean, this is just like pure schlock comedy more than anything else. Like it's hilarious.
Oh yeah. You're not going to be scared watching Chopping Mall. You're just going to thoroughly enjoy watching these teenagers be chased around a mall by deranged robots.
And there were a lot of similarities to Short Circuit. We were messaging about that. One of my favorite movies when I was a kid, Johnny Five, the whole thing. But I'm just going to read the 2-sentence synopsis of the plot because I think that'll streamline it a little bit.
Perfect.
But basically, a group of young shopping mall employees stay behind for a late night party in one of the stores. When the mall goes on lockdown before they get out, the robot security system malfunctions and goes on a killing spree.
Yes.
That's basically it.
It is.
But again, I think they drew a lot of inspiration from Short Circuit, which now I want to remind myself, when did that come out? Because it had to have been before this, maybe like a year before it. It came out the same year.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I don't know. I'll have to see what time of year. Maybe they got their hands on the script. But basically, in Short Circuit, the robot malfunctions and comes to life because of a lightning strike. And I think it's there's lightning in a storm at the beginning of this.
Yes, there is. There is lightning.
Is that what causes it, if I'm remembering? Or is it just...
That is what I believe. It was a little confusing. So, the robots are obviously already programmed to defend the mall. They're just not programmed to be maybe so aggressive.
Right.
So the lightning is what I guess. This is maybe the philosophical question of the movie: does the lightning give them a sense of evil, or does the lightning just awaken the evil that was already within?
That's a good question, and I don't know how they would have behaved had they just been functioning as normal.
In a normal situation, if someone was shoplifting, would they have used lasers on them?
Maybe, I don't know.
Was that part of their program?
Right.
I don't know.
And I gotta say, before I get past this, I'm looking at the movie poster for this, and I love the tagline, when shopping costs you an arm and a leg. That's kind of amazing, actually.
Yes, it's worth watching. It's definitely worth watching.
And this is actually, besides the fact that it came out in the mid-'80s, it's sort of a little bit of an artifact now because malls aren't what they... they're still there, but they're not really the same kind of thing.
Well, and the stores that are in this mall, their whole party takes place at a furniture store.
Right.
I've personally never seen a furniture store in a mall, but I also wasn't alive when this movie was made.
I was only 4.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like there were a lot of stores in this mall that were not how I experienced malls. It was like it was fancy.
I don't know why.
Fancy mall.
It just caught me off guard at one point. I just thought it was so funny. They go past the store, and it's just in the background. Like, they don't stop and look at it or anything. But the label or the name of the store above the door is World of Almonds. And I'm like, I mean, does the whole store need to be there for almonds? I mean, apparently,
In
maybe?
1986, it did.
I don't know.
It's not a bad idea.
So there's this group of teenagers, as is described, and they do some ridiculous stuff. Like, there's this whole scene where they're in the furniture store and they're basically just having sex on like consecutive beds. Like, it's a weird kind of setup situation.
Which, like, I applaud the creativity in that sense. Like, if you're gonna have a classic horror movie, especially in the 80s, and you're gonna have teenagers, they gotta have sex.
Right.
But if they're in a mall, where are they gonna have sex? I mean, sure, there's lots of places, but like, it makes sense that, hey, let's give them some beds, so let's make it a furniture store, and they don't stay there, so it's not like it becomes instrumental to the plot. But I appreciated that they didn't like try to make them have sex in like really random mall places.
Yeah. I think it was clearly like a script convenience thing. Like, we've got this one location, we can film this, and then move on to the next thing. Because I'm sure the budget was probably not a lot. I would not imagine.
Yeah.
But there's it's funny, there's a little bit, I mentioned Short Circuit. I kind of got a little bit of RoboCop
I
vibes.
definitely got a lot of RoboCop,
Like, just sort of like making fun of consumerism and sort of picking up on that whole thing. I mean, the whole mall setting is part of that.
Well, in the opening scene where they're presenting these new mall security robots is so reminiscent of RoboCop, and like presenting the new, police officer robot.
Like Ed 209 or whatever
Something
it's called.
Like that eventually turns on them.
Right.
Or at least malfunctions and like murders a person in the boardroom. Like,
I love how the guy in the boardroom is just like,
I know.
What a headache. Yeah.
Paperwork.
Again, this is RoboCop, not this
Yes,
movie.
yeah, RoboCop.
These don't come to life until a little bit later, and then it becomes almost, it becomes a slasher, essentially.
Yeah.
And more of an action movie toward the end, but there's kind of a slow, like, take out one person here and there type of thing.
And it is, it's motivated by the fact that they are programmed to, like, protect the mall, so they think that what they're, they're not, like, malicious, like, must kill humans, but, like, because that's what robots say.
Right, clearly, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, they think that they're doing their job. They're just, like, going above and beyond.
Right. So,
and putting explosives.
Yes.
To kill the people they believe are shoplifting.
Right.
It's reasonable reaction.
And as you would imagine, things progress to the point to where some of the teenagers make it into, like, a sporting goods store. And get, like, a bunch of weapons, like shotguns. And
Again,
automatic
my
weapons
experience with malls doesn't include shotguns.
Yeah, you wouldn't typically see that,
Unless
maybe
it's Bass
in the
Pro
80s.
Shop? I don't know.
Again, I was 4 when this came out, so I don't remember the mall setting that much. But yeah, so it's just really cheesy and over the top. And talking about the kills, like you said, there's a lot of lasering, so a lot of pink laser effects.
Oh, yeah, and you're watching the lasers, you're like, how is that person still alive?
Right.
Like, okay.
And there's one person who gets set on fire. I remember that part of it. Isn't there somebody whose head gets smashed or something?
There's something there's a smack blown up, maybe?
Yeah, there's one of that.
There's like a full-on like firing range death scene where that girl's like crawling and they're shooting. Maybe was it with lasers or bullets? Now I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But like she's just getting shot up and they're all like, ah, and the guy's like, why didn't you help her? And they're like, cuz.
And there's this whole sequence where they basically booby trap an elevator or something.
Yes,
to get
they
one of them
fight
on
back.
there.
They decide to fight back against the robots. It felt a little like Deep Blue Sea. I'm gonna throw us into that reference.
Which I do love that movie.
Of course. Where it's like, okay, 1 down, 2 to go. Like, we know how many are out there. Let's one by one take them out so that we can feel like we're making progress.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the thing is, again, at an hour and 17 minutes, this is not a huge time investment. But as we said at the start, it didn't feel that brief to me. I was entertained by it consistently the whole way through. And there were some really good lines. Like, we were texting.
Oh, so many.
I'm trying to remember what the one I texted you about. I think it was like, I'm sorry I'm in such a bad mood. I'm just not used to being chased through a mall by killer robots at 2 a.m. Or it's just something like super self-aware and cheesy.
Some of my favorite lines are even before like the kills start happening when they're talking when they're in the furniture store and they're like, oh, it's Friday, F fuchsia. I don't even know. They're just, it's like they're setting the tone pretty early on in the movie.
I think the writing's pretty funny, and actually, I mean, the acting was not that bad.
No, and they set up like characters.
Yeah.
Like, we're semi-invested in these people. Like, they're all couples, and of course you've got, like, the nerdy do-gooder
right.
who's got to meet cute with the new girl who ends up being a super good shot, as always. She was a great final girl.
Yeah.
In my opinion, she was a great final girl. I appreciated that.
And so there is I guess those two in particular have some kind of character arc a little bit. Like, the nerdy guy gets a little more assertive and that kind of stuff.
Yes, she's got to step up and prove herself. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say overall, like, I definitely recommend watching this. I do think the title was a little misleading in that it wasn't as gory as I expected it to be, which, I mean, that does not mean it wasn't bad or a solidly entertaining stupid horror movie, but it just wasn't gory.
And I think that, like, if you're going to use mall security robots as your antagonist, again, I appreciate that I felt like they got inventive about it. Like, they had a very limited space and limited sort of, like, I guess we'll say character options, and I thought they did a really nice job, even though, like, I wouldn't expect mall security robots to have lasers.
Especially in 1986, but who knows?
But I appreciate that they, like, stepped it up and gave it more that they could work with to create some interesting deaths.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you, Dick Miller is in this. If you're a fan of, like, 80s movies, he's in a ton of stuff. So he was in Gremlins. He's been, alright, so let me click on his name just so I can remind myself of everything that he's in, because it's actually a lot. So, and he passed away not that long ago. So he was in The Terminator. He was the pawn store. He was the guy that gets killed by Arnold at the pawn shop.
Oh my! Demon Knight. Oh, he's Uncle Willie in Demon Knight.
I guess so. I haven't seen that in forever. I've seen it, but I don't remember.
Almost watched it this past weekend. I love Demon Knight.
And of course, Gremlins, one of my favorites. Henry loves that movie now that he's seen it, because who doesn't?
Yes.
But he's just got a small role in The Burbs, which I think is hilarious too. But yeah. So anyway, is there anything else with Chopping Mall that is worth noting? Do you think?
I will say that I appreciated that it followed some very formulaic structures that you would expect in, like, a horror movie. Like, I think if you were to get to know these characters, you could probably place their death order, like, oh, okay, this is who's gonna die here and who's gonna survive. Like, but it also didn't feel overly cliche that, like, I wasn't entertained or I wasn't invested. Like, so, like, they're kind of on a time crunch because the mall will release its lockdown at sunrise or 5 a.m., whenever, when the mall opens.
Right.
And so there is definitely conversations about, like, well, let's just hide.
Right.
Let's just hide and hope. And so I do feel like that was the one part that I was like, are the robots genuinely trying to defend the mall? Because if these people are hiding, there's nothing to defend it against. Or have they been somehow reprogrammed by the lightning to seek out and want to, like, harm individuals? Because then it would make sense that they continue to try to find them, which is what they did.
And I'm forgetting this, or I'm just remembering it now. Like, every time they would kill somebody, they would be like, "Have a nice day."
Oh,
and then,
yes,
like, roll
yes.
away.
Yeah, they'd be like, "You have 10 seconds to comply," which was what reminded me of RoboCop.
Yeah. So I think the cheesiness of it, and the fact that it leans into that, I think the fact that the dialogue is pretty snappy and well written, and the effects are funny, makes it more timeless than some of these other 80s, like Basket Case. Like, I like Basket Case, but I'm not going to go back and rewatch it.
No, I'm not going to watch that again.
I would totally rewatch this if somebody wanted to check it out. You know?
Yes, because it would be entertaining. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else with Chopping Mall?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if you like cheesy horror stuff, you can't go wrong with it. It might cost you an arm and a leg, as the tagline says, but it's totally worth watching.
It is worth watching, definitely.
We were talking about seeing Abigail, and
I know.
At some point, I think we're going to see that. We're going to review that.
We still need to see the second Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, that's right. I don't even know if that's streaming yet.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. So soon, we will have another movie review coming.
Yes.
As always, thanks for watching, and we'll check back in soon.